There's a silence that cuts deeper than rage, the silence of a Sigma male who's been betrayed. He doesn't explode, doesn't chase answers, doesn't beg for closure. He simply vanishes, taking with him the depth, loyalty, and energy you never thought could disappear. To most people, it looks like indifference, but to those who know him, that silence is a message and a warning. Because when a Sigma male feels betrayed, revenge isn't loud, it's strategic, it's quiet, it's transformational. He doesn't waste time trying to destroy the one who hurt him. He rebuilds himself so completely that he becomes untouchable. His silence isn't weakness, it's precision. Every unanswered message, every calm reaction, every quiet withdrawal. It's the sound of him reclaiming his power. This video dives into the psychology behind that silence, why Sigma males never fight back in the way people expect, and how that calm detachment becomes their greatest weapon. If you're someone who's ever been misunderstood, betrayed, or undervalued, this one's for you. Subscribe to UltraWise for more deep cinematic insights into the Sigma mindset, where silence speaks louder than words, and growth becomes the ultimate revenge. And tell me in the comments below, when you're betrayed, do you confront or do you go silent and let your peace do the talking? Immediate internal audit. He catalogs motives, not drama. When a Sigma male feels betrayed, his first reaction isn't anger, it's silence. But inside that silence, something sharp and methodical begins to move. He doesn't replay the scene for emotion, he replays it for evidence. Every tone, every shift in energy, every inconsistency becomes data. He's not trying to figure out why it happened. He's identifying who they really were all along. His mind shifts into audit mode, cross-referencing every conversation, every compliment, every promise that now rings hollow. While most people lash out or drown in pain, he's already observing patterns, connecting dots that reveal hidden intentions. The Sigma doesn't waste time labeling people as good or bad. He measures alignment. He looks at behavior versus words, consistency versus convenience. He's not seeking justice from the outside world. He's refining his internal compass. That's his quiet advantage. Because betrayal doesn't just expose others, it recalibrates him. Each emotional scar becomes a data point, a lesson in human nature, and a reminder that loyalty without awareness is self-sabotage. His silence isn't confusion, it's analysis. While others wonder why he's so calm, he's already rewritten the entire story in his head, stripped of illusion, filtered through logic. This is the Sigma's revenge in motion, invisible, intelligent, irreversible. He doesn't confront the betrayer because he already knows the confrontation serves no purpose. The truth has revealed itself, and that's all he needs. And when he finally walks away, it's not with bitterness, it's with precision. He's updated his emotional operating system. He no longer reacts to masks, he reads the code beneath them. Betrayal doesn't break him, it sharpens his perception, hardens his discernment, and teaches him that sometimes silence isn't avoidance, it's evolution. The withdrawal of availability, he removes access quietly. When the Sigma male recognizes betrayal, he doesn't make a scene. There are no explosive messages, no public fallout, no grand gestures of departure. Instead, he fades. Strategically, gracefully, and without warning. His silence isn't ghosting, it's precision. He understands that true power doesn't come from confrontation, but from control, especially control over access. He removes himself from the equation, like a chess piece taken off the board, leaving the other player suddenly aware that the game has ended without their consent. At first, the betrayer doesn't even notice. They still send messages, still assume his attention will be there waiting, still think they can re-enter his life whenever they please. But slowly, their attempts echo into nothing. The Sigma no longer replies instantly. Calls go unanswered. Plans dissolve into maybe. He's no longer accessible. Not emotionally, not mentally, not spiritually. The same person who once offered depth and loyalty now offers distance and silence. And that silence becomes unbearable to those who once fed off his presence. This quiet withdrawal is not punishment, it's protection. The Sigma knows that explaining his absence to people who never valued his presence is a waste of life force, so he simply stops showing up, not out of spite, but out of clarity. He understands that the greatest act of self-respect is not proving his worth, but preserving it. Every moment of silence becomes a boundary. Every unanswered text a statement that says, "Access to me was a privilege, not a right." And when people finally realize he's gone, it's too late. They remember the calm voice that once steadied them, the loyalty they mistook for weakness, and the empathy they exploited. But the Sigma doesn't look back. He's already moved into the next phase of his evolution, where peace becomes his currency, and presence becomes invitation only. His disappearance is not revenge, it's refinement. In a world addicted to noise, the Sigma's quiet withdrawal becomes the loudest lesson of all. Once a man like that decides you no longer have access, you never really find your way back in. Emotional ledger activation. Every slight is logged as data. When a Sigma male feels betrayed, he doesn't explode, he records. His mind turns into a quiet ledger where emotions become entries and memories become evidence. Every broken promise, every subtle insult disguised as humor, every shift in tone that others overlook, he notes it, not out of obsession or revenge, but out of understanding. The Sigma's emotions are never random. They're data points in a long-term study of human behavior. He doesn't dwell on pain, he decodes it. Every betrayal becomes an audit of character, every disappointment a lesson in discernment. While others react impulsively, he observes. He replays moments in his head, but this time he strips away sentiment, filtering everything through logic. He sees patterns most people ignore. How manipulation hides behind compliments, how guilt is weaponized by the insecure, how self-interest always reveals itself through repetition. To him, people are predictable once their emotional algorithms are exposed. That's why his silence feels so unsettling, because behind it, he's compiling truth. The Sigma's emotional ledger isn't fueled by bitterness. It's powered by precision. He uses it to refine his inner circle, to elevate his standards, and to ensure he never repeats the same mistake twice. When he finally walks away, it's not impulsive, it's calculated. He's already reviewed the data, cross-checked the inconsistencies, and confirmed the outcome. By the time others realize he's distant, his emotional account has already been closed. No refunds, no reopening. And that's the quiet brilliance of his revenge. It's invisible. He never exposes what he knows, never reveals the depth of his awareness. The betrayer might think they got away with it, but the Sigma has already adjusted course, evolved his strategy, and withdrawn his energy completely. What they'll feel next isn't his anger. It's their own emptiness echoing back. Because once the Sigma's emotional ledger marks a name as unworthy, that chapter doesn't reopen. His memory is sharp, his forgiveness selective, and his detachment permanent. What looks like indifference from the outside is actually the final line in his mental audit. Lesson learned, no emotion wasted. Strategic non-engagement, silence used as a tactical barrier. When betrayal enters the Sigma male's world, he doesn't argue, plead, or explain. He simply stops engaging. His silence is not confusion or surrender, it's strategy. While most people rush to defend themselves, he does something far more unsettling. He vanishes into emotional stillness. His quiet becomes a mirror, forcing others to face the noise of their own conscience. He knows that silence exposes truth faster than confrontation ever could, because guilt hates a quiet room. To the untrained eye, it looks like indifference, but for the Sigma, silence is a calculated shield. He withholds his reaction not because he doesn't feel, but because he refuses to feed manipulation. Every reply, every emotional outburst, every attempt to explain would only give the betrayer ammunition, and he knows it. So instead, he speaks through absence. He lets their imagination do the work, lets their anxiety spiral in the void his silence creates. There's nothing more disarming than realizing someone you expected to chase you has completely disengaged. This non-engagement isn't passive, it's power refined. It's emotional aikido, using the opponent's momentum against them. The Sigma knows that in conflict, attention is energy, and energy is control. By withdrawing both, he reclaims authority over the situation without lifting a finger. His calm becomes a psychological fortress. No amount of provocation can penetrate it. Meanwhile, those who tried to control him grow restless. They send messages, create drama, and even rewrite stories, all to provoke a reaction, but he gives them nothing. He's not trying to win a fight, he's letting the fight die from starvation. Because when he doesn't react, the manipulation collapses under its own weight. His silence becomes a verdict, his distance a declaration. You're not worth my energy anymore. In a world addicted to attention and validation, the Sigma silence is the ultimate rebellion. It leaves others powerless, confused, and haunted by their own motives. And when the dust settles, he's already moved on, emotionally lighter, mentally sharper, and far beyond the reach of those still trapped in their noise. His silence wasn't avoidance, it was precision warfare, a quiet reminder that sometimes the strongest voice in the room says absolutely nothing. Recomposition of identity. He rebuilds around new priorities. After betrayal, the Sigma male doesn't chase closure. He rebuilds himself. But this isn't some dramatic reinvention. It's quiet, deliberate, almost invisible to those who wronged him. He doesn't change to prove a point. He changes to reclaim his peace. The destruction of trust becomes raw material for transformation. Where others would drown in bitterness, he reconstructs, layer by layer, brick by brick, around new priorities that reflect his evolved values. The betrayal becomes a catalyst, burning away everything that was dependent on external validation. He stops living reactively and begins living architecturally. Every choice intentional, every connection filtered. He realizes that the life he built before was partly designed to keep others comfortable, to accommodate their expectations, and to protect fragile egos. But now, that architecture no longer fits. The walls come down. And what rises from the ashes is sharper, cleaner, simpler. He starts prioritizing solitude over noise, truth over comfort, self-respect over belonging. His circle shrinks, his clarity expands. He doesn't need to announce the shift, it radiates from his energy. People who used to manipulate his loyalty now sense the difference. They no longer have access to his inner world. He no longer explains, overextends, or waits for reciprocity that never comes. The Sigma's new identity is forged in silence, sustained by purpose, and protected by discipline. And yet, beneath the cold precision of his reconstruction lies something quietly beautiful: liberation. The betrayal that was meant to break him ends up freeing him. He no longer seeks permission to evolve. He becomes untouchable, not because he's hardened, but because he's recalibrated. His self-worth no longer depends on how others see him. It's self-generated, self-fueled. By the time the world realizes how much he's changed, he's already miles ahead. Emotionally, mentally, spiritually, he doesn't seek revenge. He simply evolves out of reach. His new life becomes the ultimate closure, one built on intention instead of reaction, growth instead of grief. The Sigma doesn't just move on, he moves up, reconstructing a version of himself that betrayal could never touch. And when he finally looks back, he sees it clearly. Losing them was the most productive destruction of his life. Energy reallocation to growth. He invests only where value returns. Once the Sigma male processes betrayal, he doesn't waste another drop of energy on what broke him. His focus sharpens, his emotional economy tightens, and his attention becomes currency. He realizes that his time, peace, and energy are assets, and he starts managing them like a disciplined investor. Every interaction becomes an audit. Does this give value or drain it? If the return is chaos, confusion, or compromise, he simply withdraws. There are no warnings, no dramatic farewells, just quiet divestment. At Sigma learns to treat his energy like something sacred. He stops pouring himself into bottomless wells. People who take but never give. Situations that only feed ego but not evolution. Instead, he redirects that energy into growth. His craft, his fitness, his mind, his vision. Every betrayal becomes fuel. Every silence a recalibration. What was once pain turns into productivity. What was loss becomes leverage. He channels emotion into mastery, using discipline as his redemption arc. While others gossip or self-destruct after betrayal, he disappears into development. His absence is his revenge. Not loud, not performative, but undeniably effective. When he resurfaces, he's unrecognizable, sharper in thought, calmer in demeanor, and far more detached from validation. The same people who underestimated him start watching from a distance, wondering how he managed to rebuild so powerfully. The truth? He stopped trying to fix people and started upgrading himself. He no longer gives explanations, only results. Every boundary he enforces becomes an investment in peace. Every hour he spends in solitude compounds into strength. The Sigma understands what few ever will. Energy is finite, and wasting it on those who never respected it is the ultimate loss. Betrayal taught him that not everyone deserves access to his light. Some only want to stand in its warmth without contributing to its fire. And so he becomes intentional. His world becomes smaller, but his presence grows heavier. He doesn't chase, he attracts. He doesn't argue, he builds. His silence becomes productivity. His withdrawal becomes evolution. The Sigma's revenge isn't destruction, it's elevation. Because once he learns where to invest his energy, every moment from then on becomes a profit. Reputation reframing through absence. His silence reshapes how others see him. When the Sigma male goes silent after betrayal, something fascinating happens. The narrative shifts. The very people who once dismissed, underestimated, or tried to control him are forced to fill the void he leaves behind. And in that void, their perception begins to bend. His silence becomes the canvas on which their guilt paints new conclusions. They start to realize that the man they thought they had figured out was never reacting. He was observing, calculating, and deciding who was worth his presence. At first, they mistake his distance for weakness or indifference. But as time passes and he doesn't return, their confidence falters. They begin to recall the things he said, how calm he was under pressure, how he never raised his voice, how he walked away from conflict without needing to be right. What once seemed like detachment now looks like strength. What they labeled arrogance now feels like emotional mastery. In his absence, his reputation reconstructs itself, not through words, but through contrast. People start comparing their current reality to when he was present. Conversations lose depth, plans lack direction, and relationships feel duller. His stillness begins to echo louder than their noise. That's the Sigma paradox. His absence does more than his presence ever could. He doesn't need to defend himself, because time becomes his lawyer and silence his testimony. Every rumor fades, every assumption dissolves, until all that remains is the undeniable truth of his value. Meanwhile, the Sigma remains detached from this entire process. He isn't orchestrating it, he's simply existing beyond it. He knows that image repair doesn't come from talking, it comes from living in alignment. He no longer needs to convince anyone of who he is. His consistency does the work. When he finally reemerges, calmer, sharper, and more composed, those who once doubted him see it instantly. He never lost himself. He simply outgrew the version of him they could manipulate. His absence reframes his identity in their minds, not as the quiet one, but as the one who never needed the crowd to validate his worth. By the time they understand that, it's too late to regain access. The Sigma's silence has already become his legend, the unspoken reminder that real power doesn't announce itself. It disappears and lets the world do the remembering. Return as unannounced mastery, he reappears stronger, calm, and uncompromising. When the Sigma male finally returns after betrayal, there's no announcement, no declaration, no attempt to prove anything. He simply arrives, quietly, yet with an energy so grounded it commands attention without asking for it. The same people who once doubted him now sense something different. His presence feels heavier, his eyes sharper, his silence more intentional. He's not bitter, he's evolved. Every scar has turned into structure, every disappointment into discernment. What they're looking at isn't the same man who left. It's the upgraded version, forged in solitude and perfected through self-control. His new calm isn't emptiness, it's power contained. He's no longer reactive because he's no longer invested in proving a point. While others spent time gossiping, explaining, or competing, he was refining his mind, his habits, his purpose. He doesn't talk about what he's been through, he embodies it. Every move he makes now carries precision. No wasted words, no unnecessary emotion, no misplaced trust. And it's that control, that unshakable stillness, that unnerves people the most. The Sigma's return is his revenge, not through confrontation but through contrast. He no longer fits in the same environments, no longer entertains shallow conversations, no longer participates in circles that drain him. His detachment isn't coldness, it's clarity. He's learned that silence was never his weakness, it was his weapon. And now, his mastery lies in restraint, in knowing that true dominance requires no display. Those who betrayed him can feel it too, that invisible distance between who he was and who he's become. They try to reconnect, to test if the door is still open, but they're met with polite indifference. He's cordial, composed, even kind, but unreachable. There's no bitterness in his voice, only boundaries. No anger, only alignment. His peace has become his final form of power, one that can't be stolen, manipulated, or misunderstood. In the end, his silence wasn't disappearance. It was incubation. He didn't retreat to hide. He retreated to rebuild. And now his return isn't about being seen. It's about being felt. Calm, confident, untouchable. The Sigma male's unannounced mastery is the quiet proof that he never lost control. He simply stopped wasting it. When the Sigma male finally walks back into the world he once left behind, he doesn't need to say a word. His presence speaks for him. His silence told the story. His growth wrote the ending, and his peace became the proof that real revenge is transformation. The ones who betrayed him now see it clearly. They didn't destroy him. They built the version of him that no longer needs them. If this story resonated with you, it's because you've felt that same shift, the one where pain turns into purpose and solitude becomes strength. You know what it means. to outgrow explanations and rise in silence. If you're a Sigma, an observer, or someone who's learned to rebuild quietly, this channel is your space. Subscribe to UltraWise and stay part of the journey. Each video dives deeper into the mind of the Sigma, not just how he thinks, but how he evolves. And tell me in the comments, when you disappeared to find yourself, what did you discover when you came back stronger,